a lot of people are constantly being scrutinized, getting paid contractors or contractors like other people, basically taking money and leaving, not doing the job. I was always that middle person who would be like the buffer zone between the contractor and all the craziness that goes there and the homeowner and all the craziness that go there. So the homeowner never sees the bad side of contracting. It's all beautiful. I take all the hits. Same thing, the contractor who works under me, will never deal with homeowner's craziness.
Yeah.
This color, this style, that style, right? So he's happy. The contractor, he can do his work. The homeowner gets the product they need. I was always in the middle. Здравейте всички и добре дошли на нови епизод на Chicago Straight Up Investor Podcast. Аз съм вашия гост Боян и това са моите водещи Том и Марк.
Oh, yeah. We got Bulgarian done. Boom.
Right. That's for our 13 listeners in Bulgaria. I love it, man.
We have listeners in Bulgaria. It's probably someone who's been on vacation there because it's not consistent.
No, I love it, dude. That is awesome, man.
All right, we got Polish, Spanish, and Bulgarian now.
Yeah, so listeners, if you have a language you speak and you've bought at least one property, let's see if you can be a guest.
Yeah, there we go. Let's keep this thing going here.
We got to do all of these. So we have Polish. So, yeah, we got to get some other languages in here.
We're a melting pot.
Yes, exactly. No Pig Latin.
So, real quick, we have an ask for the guests. Reviews, please. We keep getting told that we need more reviews. So if you find value in the content, take the 10 seconds. It means the world to us. And obviously, we'll put your name in the hat to win a potential $50 gift card from one of our sponsors.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's our lifeblood. So sharing it, we can only reach so many people. We can only depend on so many people accidentally finding us. A lot of people find us on accident. They Google real estate in Chicago. But it's listeners, all you guys, thousands of you that can share this, that could literally double our listenership in a week. So please help us.
No, we appreciate it. So we got a great episode today. I love anytime we have someone who came from another country and just has a different perspective because we are so freaking spoiled here. It's unbelievable.
I make my kids listen to all these episodes because they don't understand how good they have it or how their problems are real. Don't get me wrong. That's how the emotions are real, but it could be so much worse and they could be so much more optimistic. And that's a huge thing that we took from today's guest too.
Yeah, it's like a lack of vision of opportunity. Right, people just don't visualize like all the opportunity we have here because you're just trained one way to go through the motions. Like, I'm told to do this. I'm told to do this, and you got to take the blinders off once in a while.
Exactly.
So, all right, what do we got for the housing provider tip of the week?
All right, so the tip. So I've been working on our leasing team for the last since the summer, and this fall, it always drops off the amount of showings, amount of applications for each unit. But the north side in particular this year, I call it Lakeview. Lakeview, Lincoln Park, it fell off big time for us. And the rent prices came down for us big time. So if we were trying to rent something for $4,200, we only got $3,700 or something like that. It was a big drop off. And it was clear there still is right now when we're recording this in the middle of November, there's a lot of inventory still on the market for this time of year. So I guess what's important, my tip is if you're having to put someone into a lease right now, make sure that you're extending it at least through January, February 2026, so you could get into the better rental season. Do not do a 12-month lease right now. Yeah,
absolutely. And the higher price point you go, this is a very general statement, but the higher price point you go, the more that person has planned out their life, right? If you have that one bedroom for $1,000, you can probably find someone in December. That guy, oh crap, my lease is up. But like the people paying $3,500, like they're doing it every March or every April. Like they're not scrambling for an apartment in December. So now you're banking on someone who split up with their girlfriend or had to get relocated. Like you're banking on one of those situations to fill your place now.
Yeah, and hoping somebody gets a job transfer or whatever. So so one thing I'm going to do this year is I'm going to go back and see where those renewals, could those have been someone we saved? Did we try going for 4,200, 4,300 and they moved? And would have been even better if we just went to 4,100 and got them to stay for another year or 6 months even. That would have been a huge thing of trying to extend them out a few more months just to get us past the holidays.
Yep, good tip. I like it. All right, let's do this.
All right, man. Today's guest came from Kirby Atwell, previous guest, episode 321. Kirby, thank you very much. New to the country at one point. Watchmaker, wasn't even sure that was real at first. I thought he was joking with us. I love that though.
Watchmaker who wore an Apple Watch to the podcast.
Yes, I love it too. But investor, flipper, wholesaler. He's really big on self-development. Without further ado, Boyan Salha.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Yeah, no, we've, you're obviously a referral from episode 321. Kirby Atwell. So shout out to Kirby. He spoke very highly of you on and off air. So we're like, we got to have that guy on. So
Great guy.
how you and Kirby know each other?
Well, we used to work together back in the days at Eye Candy Homes. He was one of the owners. There were 3 owners. He was one of the owners. And I was invited to be a project manager. And that's how the whole relationship started.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And it's funny that when I was invited to be a project manager, I barely knew anything about construction, real estate, and project management at the same time. But, basically they told me, hey, you learn. So I learned.
What were you doing before that?
Well, funny story. I was a watchmaker for 15 years, something completely different. No real estate background, no construction background. I was a watchmaker. And
That's a real thing?
It is. It is a real thing, yes.
Is that like family? Like my dad was and my grandpa was? Like, how do you get into watchmaking?
Yeah, my mom's brother, so my uncle, he was a watchmaker. And what I kind of interested me in that field was like the amount of money he makes. I mean, I was 18, 19. I was basically finishing high school. And I will go help him out with small things in the watchmaking field, like replace a battery, replace a leather strap, small things. And like seeing the amount of customers that go to his repair shop, the amount of money he makes, it's like I figured like probably in a week, he makes more than my parents make in a month. And the funny thing is that my parents both are doctors. And I'm like, oh, wait a second. So you spend 5, 6, 7 years, whatever, studying to be a doctor. And all of a sudden, like you're at a set salary. There is no like development. You can't improve like in a way like to make more money. And my uncle is killing it. So that's how I got involved in watchmaking.
That's like the real life rich dad, poor dad. Like that's the entire basis of that book.
Exactly. And honestly, when I read the book, I believe it was right about that time in 99. I think it was just translated in Bulgarian. And I'm like, that was an eye-opening book. Like exactly, my parents were the educated, I'm not saying my uncle is not, but the educated people with a certain mindset. My uncle was the entrepreneurial one. Right, taking action, looking into different areas, the watchmaking and like making money. And I was always the black sheep in my family because I became my uncle. Like I started thinking like him and, became a watchmaker. So I had my own businesses in Bulgaria, watchmaking businesses for almost 15 years.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. What made you, so you're in Bulgaria at that time being a watchmaker. What made you say that let's go to Chicago?
Yes, flip some homes in the burbs.
Yeah, let's go to the burbs.
That's a good question. So during the college years, I'm not sure if you guys are aware, there are different programs like for students, foreign students to come here just for the summer, work different jobs, usually in McDonald's, supermarkets, whatever. Kind of it's called cultural exchange. Yep. Just to see the other side of the world, what people do, how they live, and then you go back to your own country and you continue, with your education. So I came here as a student, worked at McDonald's in Rhode Island, and I was the happiest person on earth, believe it or not. Like working at McDonald's and being happy, but I was happy because I don't know. The moment I landed in New York. The moment I took that shuttle bus from JFK to downtown Manhattan, the moment I saw those buildings, the moment I saw the cars and everything, like the good and the bad, I just loved it. I knew this was my country and one day I'm going to be here. I just didn't know how and when. Mm-hmm. Right. And then a couple years later, I came again, this time in Chicago, because my best buddy already moved from Bulgaria to Chicago. So I'm like, where I'm supposed to go. I don't know anybody anyway, so I came to Chicago. I liked it. A lot of Bulgarians live here in the Chicago area, made some friends, and several years later, I said, that's it with Bulgaria, no more businesses there, no more like thinking that something can happen in a better way for me. I felt like stuck, And here I am, 2010.
How old were you? Did you speak any English? Like,
Yeah, I mean, most of the people in Bulgaria and outside of America, we do study a second language.
okay, I like that.
Not us.
We know the basic Spanish words. That's about as far after 2 years of Spanish.
I actually took French, and it was a Catholic school. I could still do the Hail Mary. I can't do anything else. I can do the Hail Mary in French.
I'm on day 340 of Duolingo, and I feel like I know no Spanish at all still, like at this point. So
Yeah, I would like to study a lot of Spanish too, because of my construction job. But anyway, yeah, that's a different thing. Anyway, I did speak English, but at that time I couldn't speak on the phone. I had to be in person. I have to see you talking. It has to be a familiar subject. It also, I had a lot of hard time understanding people. And I always had to translate something in my head first before I can say it in English. It was struggling, but my wife, she's American, so she, that helps speaking English at home.
Yep. What first impression of Chicago? Were you actually in the city? Were you in the burbs? Like that first time you came here, give us the good and the bad.
I mean, huge city. First of all, huge city, right? Of course, everybody wants to live downtown. I did not live downtown. I lived in Chicago when I came. I was in Portage Park. But,
My neighbor, yeah.
Yeah, you see, my actual job as a watchmaker, I found a job. It was downtown Chicago on Wabash and Washington, I think, on the 7th, 8th floor. So I would enjoy like going to work in the morning, believe it or not, working for somebody else, spent 8 hours there, then like probably spent hour and a half to 2 hours kind of walking around downtown before I take the blue line back to my house. And I really enjoyed it for a while until you start, seeing, and not enjoying the traffic and the amount of people and the crowdiness. And then when we met with my wife, we just moved to the suburbs, and I'm very happy with that decision.
All right. So how did you get called upon by Kirby then? Like, hey, here's this guy who came over who's repairing watches. Sounds like a great guy to look over my construction projects. Like this, we're missing a link here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was an interesting set of events, but I need to take a step back. For example, for a little bit, I met my wife in 2012, and it's funny that probably our second or third date, we were like, hey, what do you want from life? How do you see life? And we kind of sat down and we realized that both of us, we kind of wanted the same things. And one thing that kind of surprised me, we both wanted to be in real estate somehow. Now, keep in mind, I have zero knowledge of real estate. I didn't know what a mortgage is. I didn't know how to spell the word mortgage. I had zero idea. I have not seen a sump pump in my life. We don't have some pumps in Bulgaria, by the way. And, with my wife's help, since she grew up here, it's a little kind of easier. I can ask stupid questions. I get smart answers. It's very educational. So we started talking about real estate investing, and I don't know how it happened. So I started on Facebook, commercials about real estate educations, pop up, and we're like, wow, okay, what is this? Rich Dad Education. That's Robert Kiyosaki, right? Educational training program, and we're like, well, we should be in. At that point, I had no money. No credit cards, no nothing. My wife has a credit card, and she's like, oh, let's do it. Like, what do you mean, let's do it? So we spent almost $30,000 to buy a package. Money we didn't have.
You guys went all in.
All in, absolutely. We believed in ourselves. Let me tell you, we were not married. We were just dating. And my wife, she believes in us, I guess, a lot. Being willing to kind of put this money up front. So we buy this package of 4 classes, like wholesale, lease option, creative financing, and there's one more, I don't remember. So we go to Green Bay, Wisconsin. This is our first class. It was wholesale class. And I mean, I don't remember much from the class except you put something under contract, you wholesale the contract, you make $5,000. That was back in the days, 2012. Mm-hmm. Now $5,000 for a wholesale fee is kind of low, but that was the reality back in the days. One thing they said though, after the class, after you're done, you go back to where you're coming from, and you should find a real estate networking event / RIA. And you should network with other people. You should connect with other people. We're like, okay, as you say. So we go and we look online, and there is a RIA that just started in Oak Brook. It's called Eye Candy Homes or Eye Candy RIA or something in that regard. We're like, okay, let's go check them out. So we go there, we meet Kirby, we meet the other two partners of Eye Candy Homes back in the days, and we started talking, and we were like extremely, extremely surprised how nice and open these guys were. So we kind of became friends, and little by little we got involved more into the RIA. And they started they created a program for new investors. Basically, if you find a deal, they will fund the deal for you, and they will teach you how to do the construction and how to flip it. At the end, you're gonna split 2/3 for them and 1/3 for you, the profit. That was a perfect deal for us.
Yeah.
Awesome deal. We didn't care about the money as much. We wanted to learn. We wanted to create those relationships. And that's how we met Kirby. Meanwhile, my wife still does her work. She was a social worker at the time, and I was a watchmaker. And part-time after work, we'll find like 3, 4, 5 hours, from our free time to go look at properties, to go connect with other investors, learn more about the business. And we got part of that program. We flipped 3 houses with Eye Candy Homes. We were able to find 3 houses, and after that, they were looking for a project manager.
Hold on real quick. Before going on, how did you source those? Right? You're new here. Like, how did you actually find 3 things that would work?
Yes, we were very good students. We listened. So they told us, hey.
Very un-American of you.
Sure. If you want to put it that way. They said, hey, bandit signs, they work. We buy houses with a phone number. Don't put your phone number, put a Google Voice phone number, whatever. We created a Google Voice phone number. So my wife will drive on Friday night. I get out of the car on the intersection, 4 bandit signs. We continue. You know how it is, right? So we would do like bandit signs almost, I don't want to say every week, but every other week, like 100 bandit signs. Took us 3-4 hours to put them around, the suburbs. And Saturday, Sunday, the phone rings like crazy. Back in the days, like crazy. People were scared just after, the recession. And we were able to find a deal. It was in Westmont. I'm sorry, that wasn't in Westmont. That deal was in Elmhurst. And again, we go to Kirby. Hey, Kirby, we found this. Now, what's next? Right? You told us find the deal. We found it, but what's next? So, we kind of learned step by step how to run numbers, how the whole system works and everything. The second one was from a newspaper ad. One of those free newspapers or whatever, I don't know what's they called, like they put them in your mailbox every other day.
Yeah,
whatever.
like the Daily Herald.
Yeah,
or
whatever. Yeah, they're absolutely free, but free for the end
user.
Correct, but we had to pay like $100-$150 for the ad. We buy houses, call us today in any condition. So this is what we did, and there you go. Older lady from Westmont called us, and we had to go through a lot of issues with her family. She owed a lot of money, for the car, for mortgage, and we were able to sort it out. We closed on that one. And the third one was from a wholesaler. And they said, hey, this thing works. You need to connect with wholesalers. So we connected with wholesalers, and we were able to buy one down in Crete, south. But to us, it didn't matter. If the numbers were okay at that time, everything was fine.
Well, in Crete at that time, you could still buy things for $35,000 back then.
Yeah, I don't remember the actual price, but it was a nice ranch with a full basement, a huge yard. It was nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so you do a couple deals. How do you end up with this actual partnership then, right? You become someone that they can now trust. Like, oh, we told this guy to find deals, and he did, right? And then they said, hey, come on, let's have you on as a project manager.
Were you doing the project manager on these 3 deals?
Correct. I was supposed to be under their existing project manager, which was actually Kirby's dad, right? This is a guy with like 40 years of construction experience, like from new construction to rehabs and stuff like that. But I kind of told him, I mean, maybe not told him, but kind of suggested that I need a little bit more freedom, kind of to be able to learn. And, I don't want to be babysit consistently by him. I kind of wanted, to make my own decisions. And if I have any questions or problems, then I call him and, get a little guidance. He was okay with that. And I don't know, probably they saw something in me, like, taking initiative, whatever, zero experience again. Those are just 3 flips. And then they invited me to become a project manager because they started to expand iCandy Homes as a company, buying more properties, and they needed more people in the field.
On those 3, any in hindsight, dumb mistakes, funny stories, anything you made a bad decision on?
Actually, no. Those were great. Those were great. We learned a lot. I think, and the reason for that is we followed everything we were told to, basically step by step, like literally the way they said it has to be done, creating the scope of work for contractors, the process of hiring contractors, the process of vetting contractors. Everything was done the right way. The stories came later after I started doing it by myself.
Were they giving you even the blueprint of what type of material to use and all that even?
Yes, absolutely. In the scope of work, it was overwhelming. Now, going back 10 years ago, if I was one of those contractors we were trying to hire, right, it was overwhelming. Like, hey, this is your bathroom. This is the SKU number for the tile. You buy it from here. This is the price of the tile. This is the vanity. Same thing. Everything had a SKU number. Everything was overly detailed, in my opinion. And we had hard time finding good contractors, probably because of that. When you see 5, 6, 7 pages, a scope of work, it's overwhelming. Most of the contractors, first, they don't know how to read this, how to estimate this. It was overwhelming.
We did that too. We had that broken down to the SKUs and all that. But what ultimately happened is we just ended up controlling the material. We order from Menards would deliver it, and we just basically negotiate labor. That's really what that came to, because we couldn't find the guys that wanted it to. They couldn't figure it out how to make money and do all that work and all that without just throwing something crazy out there. So we pulled back and took control of that.
I think as a contractor, that's how they would want it too, right? When they add material, they're just trying not to lose, right? They're going to default to probably the lower item, and that's what creates the friction there, right? So if you take that off their plate, if you know what you're doing and you can just fund it, I think that makes life a lot easier for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and me being a contractor now, I do prefer to control the entire project. And a lot of people think it's because, I want to make a margin on the materials, which, yes, I do want to make a margin on materials if I spend the time going researching and buying them and delivering them. But the main thing for me is not to have to call you at 6 a.m. and you're still sleeping so you can pay the Home Depot bill.
Yeah.
It's or for something small, constantly your phone rings during the day because we forgot something to buy, and then we have to go at 11:30, but you have a business meeting somewhere. And it's a lot of back and forth, which, I'm trying to avoid.
For sure. No, we ran into those issues, and, Menards the guy would have his 4 guys there ready to take the load at 6, but the truck that got stuck in traffic doesn't get there to 8. So we ran into those.
Yeah. All right. So when did you start going off on your own then? Right. Also, at this point, is it crystal clear to you now? This is what I'm doing, right? You do those 3 projects, and it's we're burning the ships, and this is it.
100%. It wasn't a tough decision. It was a tough transition, I would say, because I was working as a watchmaker, making some money, realizing that this is not my future here in America. I did not come for that. I mean, it's good, it's paying the bills, but looking forward, what would that watchmaking give me? I'm very limited. I have 2 hands. There is a bench. You have 8, 9 hours a day. How much can you produce, right? And that limitation killed me. And I'm when I saw that opportunity, even though it was in a field that was completely unknown for me in a completely new country, right? I didn't know anybody at the time. I spoke to my wife and I'm do we want to do this? It's a risk. We don't know how this is gonna play out. We don't know where the thing's gonna go, but we believed in ourselves, so we took that step. It wasn't easy. a couple of years since also I Candy Homes were kind of newer in the business. We had like too many projects. We had like 25, 30 projects at a time between two project managers.
Kirby talked about that in his episode about how they just had so much.
It was insane. And they were all over, like from Highland Park down to Crete. It was insane. I want to remind you, you have a newbie project manager who at that point gets a house in Oak Park. House is 100 plus years old. And it's a full gut rehab. I have zero understanding of electrical, zero understanding of plumbing, zero understanding of anything. I'm stressed out. I keep calling. Can't like make a decision on my own. It's insane. But I learned. I made a lot of mistakes. I'm grateful for the opportunity they gave me to learn. But also financially, it was hard for me. And after a couple of years, I had to leave. I started doing this on my own, being a real estate investor, funding properties, rehabbing them, selling them. And, I was part of more than 120 flips from my Candy Homes. And, the time I was by myself, learned a lot. And that's how I moved kind of forward.
Yep. On the going out on your own, again, was that as scary as a transition, or is that almost easier after going from watchmaking to a whole new field?
Yeah, it was easier. I got confident in my ability to make right decisions in real estate. Right, I was trained well. I had a lot of experience, not only finding the properties, also the construction, which I think a lot of investors are struggling with. And the time was right. The time was right for flips. This is like between 2014 until 2017. It was just perfect time for flips. So I'm not saying it was easy, but it was worth it. 100%.
You had a level of confidence, and we talk about this on here a lot. You had that level of confidence only because you put in the reps. You had a lot of reps at that point, and that helps you only make better decisions, which helps build your confidence.
100%. And one thing I would like to kind of give credit to my wife is she would always support me, regardless which direction I wanted to go.
What was her role in all of that as you were transitioning?
Well, we kind of started the real estate journey together. But at that time, as I mentioned, she was a social worker and she was going for her master's degree in it's behavior analyst, becoming a behavior analyst. So it's a field she was kind of and still interested in. And she would initially work with me, basically like 50-50. We developed this as a business together. But step by step, she would start working in her field more and just help me if I needed to. Until she got her master's, she kind of opened up her business, consulting business in that field, and I am kind of on my own. Yeah.
Talk to us about financing, right? Like, so you understand the construction, you've done the bandit sides, you understand how to acquire deals, but a lot of our listeners, they fall down, whether they're investing, flipping, whatever. Financing can be tricky, especially when you're buying something that is not conventional. So did you turn to private lenders? Was there hard money lenders? Like, how did you solve that piece of the puzzle?
I kept it simple. As you said, all my financing of every single deal was through a private money lender or a hard money lender. We started initially with hard money lenders. That was kind of an easier approach. When you have a deal, you present the numbers, you kind of, show them your background, that you have, construction knowledge, you did some deals. That was kind of the first step. The next step was like connecting with more people through networking events, more private money lenders. That was a little bit more trickier in a way, like they're not in a business of lending money, but they do want to make a good return. So once you kind of show them the whole process and how they can, make 10, 12% on their money versus, making nothing, keeping it in the bank, we were able to kind of get also private money lenders. But as I mentioned before, we started recording, it's like, for me, everything is based on relationship. I am basically a one-man show. I do not have any employees. I want to keep it that way, simple. And for me to get deals, to get leads, to get private money, to get hard money, it's always that connection I was able to establish with other people in the industry.
What did you prefer, the private or the hard money when it came to trying to get money for people?
It didn't matter. It didn't matter. I mean, when we had more properties than hard money lenders, I had to go to the private money. Honestly, better terms I was able to get through private money because hard money lenders, these people are in, the business of lending money. So they're most of the time, points involved and stuff like that. With the private money, you can always say, hey, I can give you a 10% versus 12% on the hard money. There are no points. We're still going to send whatever documents are necessary. We're going to still record, the documents. So even my private money lenders, they can be secured. If something happens to me, they can still take the deal, foreclose it, get paid at the end.
Yep. All right, so you're doing this up till the 2014, 2017 timeframe. Have you just been chucking along on this? How's the business changed from 2017 to present day?
If I go back to the eye candy era, we were looking back in the days for 35% return on investment. So every flip had to make a minimum of 35%. Everything we put into the property, net at the end 35%.
That's beautiful margins.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for a while, we were able to find those margins. A couple years later, we were like at 20-25%. So we see that the market is changing step by step, right? Still a good margin, don't get me wrong, but it's not the margin we're looking at. Then when I left, I said I can do a flip only if I make at least 20% return on investment. And for a couple of years, I was able to find that.
And real quick for our listeners, when you say 20% investment, are you just taking the hard cost of the rehab and your basis, or are you taking everything, the holding costs all in, like a true net margin?
Everything 100%. Holding cost, money cost,
Yes.
Everything 100%. Construction, purchase price, broker's fee, everything 100%. What comes in your pocket after all expenses.
Got it. And you want that to be roughly 20%.
Exactly.
Which back of the napkin depends on deal size, but that's the same as like the 70-30. Like if you take the hard cost and divide by 0.7, you're going to end up roughly around that same.
Correct.
Yep.
You're right. Yeah.
Boom.
2017, deals were not there anymore. I mean, there were still deals, don't get me wrong, but it was harder to find them. The return wasn't there. And I'm like, it felt like a rat race. I keep running on the treadmill, keep running. I need the next flip, the next flip, the next flip. I'm like, why? What am I doing wrong here, right? So at that point, I started exploring different options, how to transition into being a landlord. And that's, again, a new strategy that I don't know anything about. And I found somebody locally. I signed up for his coaching and started buying rentals in 2017, and we reduced the amount of flips like probably by 90% overnight. Basically, we stopped looking for flips. If a flip comes, if it makes sense, we'll do it. If an email comes with a flip, a wholesaler calls us, right? That's okay. But we were not actively looking for flips. We started looking for rentals.
Yep.
2017.
All right, and you guys have a couple. Maybe not horror stories. There's got to be some bumps in the road here. Talk to us about some of those.
Yeah,
everyone's got their first couple. Like, man, what am I doing here?
Yeah, I think 2016 I had a partner. It was my best buddy from Bulgaria, the one who moved here in the Chicago area before I moved. He's a broker, and we're like, okay, let's try this partnership, but let's see how we don't destroy our friendship. Having a partnership, but he will basically close on the property, being a broker. He will keep the commission as part of the profit. I'm more knowledgeable on the construction, so I'll put my efforts and time into the construction, and whatever we make at the end of the day, we're going to split. Fair enough, right? So flip after flip, flip after flip, we got cocky. Mm-hmm. We know it all. We don't follow the system. We don't check everything anymore. What can hurt us, basically? We're like untouchable, right? We find this property in Glenview. And I think he was on vacation. I think he was in Mexico. And I'm like so excited. And I usually, try not to bother him. I mean, it's not fair. You're on a vacation, to receive like phone calls. But I'm like, listen, I think we found a killer deal in Glenview. Believe it or not, it's in Glenview. He's like, okay, give me the numbers. Let's move forward. I think it was from a wholesaler. And we were like, man, this is like the spread, the margin is like huge. I'm like, what are we missing? Why did we get this deal? Why didn't everybody else get the deal? I'm like, doesn't matter. Everything makes sense. Let's go for it. We buy the property. And again, remember, I'm talking about how cocky we are. First of all, I'm like, okay, I will go to the village to see, this is our first deal in first property in Glenview. I wanted to see what kind of permits they require, kind of to get a feeling about the village, how strict they are and stuff like that. So I go and I'm like to the building department, hey, we got this property on 123 Main Street. So what do you guys need from us? Oh, let me check. So she checks on the computer. Oh, you don't need anything. I'm like, what? No permits? Let me see. Let me go talk to. She goes talk to somebody. She comes back and like, yeah, you guys are okay. You don't need anything from us. Remember, from us. I'm like, okay. So we go. We do a gut rehab on that place. Almost gut, let's say 80%. Brand new kitchen, bathrooms, flooring, can lights, everything you can think of. One morning we go to the property and there is a stop order. And it says, work without permit. I'm like pissed off right now. I run to the village. I'm like, guys, I came here a couple months ago and I personally asked you, what kind of permits do you want? And you said, you don't need anything from us. She's like, of course you don't need anything from us. It's unincorporated. you should get your permit from Cook County. I'm like, what do you mean by that? I never did unincorporated before. And the problem was, if you look at the house, nothing suggests that this house is in unincorporated area. There's a sidewalk, nice curb appeal, street lights. It's not different than anything else in Glenview. We found out that right side of the street is Glenview, left side of the street is unincorporated Glenview, and everything is down through Cook County. So I researched online, what do I need to do to get a permit through Cook County? And everything had to be submitted in person downtown Chicago. There was no other way around it. So I prepare all the documents. I go downtown. Oh, you also need this. Go back home, prepare everything else, go back. And then an inspector comes. Oh my goodness, like
tear it up, baby.
Exactly. Such a nightmare. You guys did the plumbing, right? We were like, I can see that you did the plumbing. Don't give me that. He's like so like, oh my goodness, like give me a break a little bit. We did a great job, right? He's like, all these cabinets, you need to pull them out. I need the wall open. All this bathroom tiles, I need it down. I need the wall open. I'm like, you serious? He's like, you bet. We destroyed half of the house. Are we good to go after that? Yes, you're good to go. We put everything together. There is an electrician who wanted almost the same thing done. So second time we had to open ceilings and walls. So instead of making $30,000, we lost $20,000 on that deal. And I call this more of a kind of an experience than like a horror story. Mm-hmm. But at that point forward, believe me, every system we created, every spreadsheet we had to fill before we start the project, everything was done upfront and the right way, because that was painful. And I don't know if it was painful that much because we lost $20,000. It's not. It is painful, but I think our ego was hurt more, and it hurt it more than the money loss.
It's funny you say you called it an experience, because one thing that all of us entrepreneurs are, especially real estate, is we find a way to justify everything to a tax write-off or a lesson learned. Like it's always translates back to that.
It's an easier way to justify things. Right?
Yeah. Like that's what you have to say it for your ego as well too on the back end of that scenario.
That it is going back to you're almost like it's like the Peter rule, like, you know, people are only, they can get promoted to a certain degree.
Peter Principle. Yep.
It's the same thing almost like when you're doing these deals, because you're just going to keep pushing the limits. It's like a heat check in basketball. You're just going to keep taking a step back until, you know, at some point you're going to miss.
Yeah.
Like the worst deals we've done have been after home runs, because you're on cloud nine. You can do anything, and you know you're going to be aggressive in the ARV. Like it's the same. It's human nature, and we fall for it every time.
Yes.
So, all right. And then did you start doing, at this point, are you doing contracting, you know, for third parties as well, where you're not the owner, but you're being hired for service? Like when does that come into the game for you?
Yeah, it started the same time we started buying rentals. I'm like, rentals are fine, but this will be something we potentially use in the future, right?
Yeah, it's not money today. It's the long game.
Correct. Yeah, and up to this point, we have not touched any of the rental income. But you know, I needed to substitute kind of the income from the flips. I'm like, what do I know? I can basically do general contracting for other investors and homeowners as well. Basically, it's the same thing for me without looking for a deal, buying a deal, selling a deal, you know, a house, but doing the construction only. Less risk. People are still buying 2017, 2018, 2019, up to COVID. It was absolutely fine, not a problem at all, you know, to find work and, you know, good clients. And this is where I started becoming a general contractor, even though, believe me, I wanted to do that much earlier, because I always like to joke that the gray hair is from screaming and yelling at contractors during my years of flipping. But, you know, it was too much back in the days, kind of looking for the properties, looking for the funding and the whole process. You know, I didn't want to add also doing a general contracting as well. But basically, it started when we started buying rental properties.
Yep. And at that point, are you taking on anything? Someone's got a turnover doing it. Someone needs a bathroom. Do it. Like, is it like, give me the idea of level of scrappiness here.
Sure. At that point, it was full gut rehabs. I will not take on small projects.
Okay.
For me, and I was well connected within the industry. I knew a lot of people knew me. They knew that they can trust me. You know, I will not be the contractor who takes the deposit and runs away, or takes some money from this job to go pay the other job. No, I was like very strict how I do my bookkeeping. Like, it's project per project, which means if this project goes south, it's for this project. Doesn't mean that the next project will have to pay for my mistakes here, right? Plus, I was in a position at that point that I did have some capital. So, you know, any mistakes on my end, you know, I underbid a job or anything, I will cover them, you know. So this integrity, this honesty, I think it drew a lot of people towards me. So I was like doing probably like 10, 12 construction jobs at the time. And that was up to COVID. I would take only big jobs, like almost like gut rehabs or almost gut rehabs.
Yep. And I know you made your relationships with your crews throughout, you know, the time, but talk to us a little about that, because we have a lot of people who are probably handy, or they've probably done their own, you know, their own flip or their own live-in house hack, and they might be interested in going down this avenue. How do you get to a point where you have enough people in the trades where you can do 10 projects, right? I know the answer is relationship based, but can you give us some tangibles for the listeners there? Like, how do you actually grow that team of this army of subs
and keep them busy? Like,
Yeah,
that's probably the harder part, I think, of the two.
Keeping them busy is for sure one thing. Paying them on time is another thing, right? But also, I think it's a very weird field, the construction business. Like being a contractor, like a lot of people are constantly being scrutinized, getting paid contractors, or contractors screwing like other people, basically taking money and leaving, not doing the job, right? I was always that middle person who would be like the buffer zone between the contractor and all the craziness that goes there, and the homeowner and all the craziness that go there. So the homeowner never sees the bad side of contracting, never. You know, it's all beautiful. I take all the hits, right, all the punches. Same thing, the contractor who works under me, you know, will never deal with homeowners' craziness.
Yeah.
This color, this style, that style, right? So he's happy, the contractor, he can do his work. The homeowner gets the product they need. I was always in the middle. But again, it's always, at least it was for me and still is that relationship that I can create and deliver on both ends. Paying them on time, keeping them busy is important, but treating them right is what most people were not used to. Most of the time they're getting, screwed by one side or another.
I love how you broke that down as far as being in the middle. You described that like perfectly. The ability to be in the middle and kind of protect the other side from just this emotion. That's really, it's no different than a real estate agent. Their job is to keep the emotions at bay and control the chaos. And you described that like beautifully.
Exactly, because I don't do the work myself. My job is not to paint walls and put drywall. There are millions of people who can do that better than me. My job is to find the person who needs the construction services and to deliver on this side. On the other side is to have a good crew that were well trained how to perform the job, and to kind of cut the excuses of most of the contractors. Oh, I got a flat tire. Oh, I got this. Oh, I got that. That's a process that probably I know most of my guys, at least for 7-8 years. That's a process, and that's everyday talk and everyday, improvement in that relationship, because most of the people are coming from a different background. Most of the people don't necessarily have certain education, whatever. They don't have like time management, money management, any type of management. So skills, so that's my role, to manage the project for them basically while they're doing what they can, basically the work, right? And same on this side, when we have a homeowner, I have to manage the money and the time and the expectations so he can get the product at the end that he needs.
Maybe I'll ask this question to both you guys. Like, we've never really talked about what that value is. So if you have a newbie or somebody just bought first couple properties, they're just doing their first flip and they have to hire a contractor, like the value of knowing that that person is going to not screw them, not nitpick them for kind of all the small extras, get the job done on time, and then ultimately just kind of just control the chaos. Like that, those are 4 huge bullet points. What's that worth? Like,
it's worth a ton. I mean, I'll say it again. Like, real estate works. Like this process has worked for hundreds of years. You just can't. You got to be able to. You got to be liquid, and you got to be able to take those blows when they come. But like, if you go in with like that defensive mindset of like, all right, I might be paying here, but these things won't happen, it's gonna work. Like it's invaluable. Like it's I don't know. I put a huge number on it.
It reminds me of John Moore, and he's bought the last couple of buildings, and he's hired the construction guys from what used to be Pangea, and he pays a premium for it. But he explained to me, he's like, man, I know I'm good at just finding the building. I'm good at managing the building. But that in between part, that if I don't have to touch it and I know it's going to get done and I pay 20% more over the next 30 years I own that building, like that is such a small dollar amount.
Correct. Absolutely. The longer the longer the time horizon,
the city, the permits, like all those things, like there's such huge value there. Just that confidence, or that you're removing a large chunk of risk out of the entire process.
Yes. Like that is your insurance policy.
Yeah. For me personally, I always treated every relationship as a partnership. Like if I work with you as a homeowner, right, it's always a partnership. I mean, if you're an investor, you need to make money on that deal. If you're flipping it, for example, I need to make money as a contractor. And all my guys, they need to get paid. And if we can rinse and repeat this as many times as we can, that's perfect. So I'm always looking for that relationship for those people who are actively looking to buy properties. We establish that relationship. They can do whatever they do best. They can go find their properties. I can do the rehab for them. Most of the time, we don't even have to meet at the property. You're more than welcome to come whenever you want. But once we know how we work, we trust each other, we know the process, everything is perfect.
Yeah, it's so... something else, another kind of point is you understand the process from A to Z.
Correct.
There's a lot of contractors that never own a property in their life.
Yeah.
They don't know that pain point. They don't know that $10,000 over feeling. They don't know that how horrible it feels to get stop work order. Like those are all things that you know, or someone that's had as much experience or as many reps understands, and that's huge value in itself too when you're looking for somebody. A lot of good contractor tips here today.
Yeah. So where are we at today? Are we still buying properties? We're still doing the contracting business? Where is your focus today?
In today's market, I'm not actively looking for properties. Might be a mistake, but also, honestly, that the time I would invest into looking into properties potentially to find the properties, right? The return is not there. Time on return invested is not there for me personally. There are many investors nowadays. Everybody's willing to overpay for a property, and I'm not. So I cannot compete with 10 other people who are willing to overpay for properties. You know, there are a lot of newer investors to the market. They're eager to do their first deal, which I get it. I was there, right? But the things in real estate are not and will not always be fine. Like we had like a very good market for the last, 7, 8, 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
Right? Things may change. And all these people who overpaid may be in a different situation where they cannot sell a property or they cannot afford anymore to keep a property. You know, I do not want to be one of those people. So for me, it's better to concentrate and kind of use my time on finding more clients who want to do construction or who are still buying. You know, I don't judge them. They want to buy, right? And kind of put money aside and wait for the market correction. I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't think anybody knows when it's going to happen. You know, we have not experienced anything like this in history, so it's kind of hard to predict. But to answer your question is, if the right deal comes out of nowhere, I'll take it. Mm-hmm. I'm not actively looking for it. I'm looking more to expand the general contracting business. And, you know, I do manage our rentals and Airbnbs at this point. So it's basically a full-time job for me.
The one thing that makes me nervous about what you're saying is a lot of people talk about corrections is like Australia is like on a 30-year run. And like as far as real estate goes, it's like, yes. Man, like, you know, and I think there's so much manipulation in the government with currency and the economy that it's like they could keep like working this to be a 30-year run, and then in year 31, I'm like, damn, I should have bought.
Sure, yeah. You can say, you know, after a certain time, period of time, oh, I missed on that opportunity. I get it 100%. But also, I am 46. I became more conservative through the years. Back like 10 years ago, I was looking to expand, to build. I'm at the level like at this point where I prefer to kind of preserve what I have. And if I can expand,
the key point though is you've gotten to that point.
Correct.
You're not sitting on 0 or 1 houses saying, "Oh, I'm going to sit it out."
Exactly.
Like you are at an established point where you can afford the ability to say,
correct.
"Hey, I'm going to be patient." It's correct. A big difference.
Yeah. If you have to live off our rentals, we can do that. So there is no financial stress like we had before, right? So I prefer to kind of preserve what we have. If we can expand little by little, we'll do it. But it will not that type of quick expansion we did for the last 10 years.
I love that answer. That's a great answer.
Well, wealth preservation is a whole nother art in itself. So.
It is.
So outlook on Chicago, right? Like, what do you see the city in the burbs here in the next 10 years, 15 years? Are you still bullish here? Are you staying here? Is this home forever?
That's an interesting question. I do love the area. Bulgaria has 4 seasons, which means I don't care about the winter. Winter is fine. It has its own beauty, right? I do not ski. I do not do any winter sports, but I don't mind the winter. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, cold winter in Chicago, let's go down to Florida. Well, Florida has different problems, right? Yep. I do love to travel, but I think home base will be Chicago, specifically in the northwest suburbs.
All right. Good stuff. Anything else before we wrap here?
Let's wrap.
All right, so we got wrap-up questions for you. Fire round. Let's do this.
All right, what's your competitive advantage? How have you been able to do all this while others wish they could do this?
Well, one thing for me is I can quickly adapt to changes. I do analyze markets, situations, changes, and I can adapt. And I think I can fast execute and make decisions. Maybe this is because of experience, this is because of who I am, but like if I see something that I think there's an opportunity there is a fast decision making and I will jump in.
All right. What is one piece of advice you would tell someone that is yet to buy their first property here in the Chicagoland area?
That's a good question. Real estate is a game. You need to learn the rules. A lot of people are jumping into real estate with the intention to make money, but they don't know how to make money. Especially if you're just starting, I would say, learn to find deals. A lot of people, including us back in the days, it's like we started building this imaginary power team without having any deals in the pipeline. We're looking for this attorney, that CPA, this and that. Learn how to run numbers. Learn how to find deals. If you find the deal, everything else will fall in place. You'll find your money lender, you'll find your attorney, you'll find the proper CPA, you'll find everybody else if you find the right deal. And at the beginning, it's very crucial, in my opinion, for a newer investor to partner up with somebody if they build this trust, so they can kind of reduce the amount of big mistakes they make on their first one.
What do you do for fun?
That's a tricky question.
Still doing watches on the side?
No, not anymore. I do enjoy.
There's no time for that.
I do enjoy watches, but I have an Apple Watch. It's funny. I do have some nice watches at home, but this is like probably the best watch. I don't know. It's like everything is here. I love it. It's light. It's not expensive. It's perfect, right? But no, I don't do watches anymore. I used to play basketball through high school, and I do enjoy watching basketball. But honestly, I learned through the years to find fun in my business and in my kind of self-development. And, going to different seminars, taking courses, classes is something I still find interesting, and I think it's fun for us and for our family, my wife too.
All right. What's a good book, podcast, or self-development activity that you'd recommend to our listeners?
Man, that's a huge list probably. Have you guys heard of Patrick Bet-David?
I have not. He has.
Yeah, he has a podcast, and I do love the business side of his podcast.
You mean not the politics side of his podcast?
That's a very kind of personal, right? I don't want to go into politics because 50% of people will agree with me and 50% will disagree with me, right? So I don't want to go that route. But in the kind of the business side of the podcast, I think gives me a lot of value. He is a little bit kind of tough. Like he believes that there is no work-life balance. Something that I disagree with him, but I guess it's a personality thing. So I have no problem with that. About the book, The Compound Interest and probably Atomic Habits. Yeah. Those two, probably when you read them, I'm assuming you guys read them, right? When you read them, you realize how small changes to your everyday routine or your everyday habits, can bring like this enormous change at the end of a year or 5 years or 10 years. It's just like mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, Atomic Habits is a once-a-year read, just to remind yourself. And Stacking Habits, it's so good.
Exactly.
It's such a good
and
one.
it applies in your personal life, in your business life, everywhere. Yeah.
I think Patrick Bet-David and Alex Hormozi, their families are from like the same village in Iran or whatever too. So like it's a hustling city, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Besides yourself, name a valuable resource to other Chicago real estate investors, which is actually how your name came up with this question with Kirby.
Nice.
Can't name Kirby either.
Yeah, can't get in this loop.
So I cannot say Kirby?
No. Keep going. We already did.
Since we were talking about people starting in real estate, people who have no experience, I think a good resource for this type of investors will be George Wyatt. George Wyatt from First Advantage Home Inspections. So why I'm bringing up his name, obviously he's a home inspector, but also he's a very good, decent human being, a real estate investor. He is honest, painfully honest. What I mean by that is, if you hire him to do inspection for you, especially if you're a newer investor, He will come, he will do the inspection. He will educate you on certain things like why these things are not up to code, construction-wise, what you need to do. But somehow he will always gonna mention the numbers, if it makes sense as a deal for you. He will be absolutely honest why certain things will not work, why you're hoping that will work, but it's not real. So that additional value you will get from him. And I think it's a very beneficial for the people who are just starting.
All right, it's good stuff. All right, thank you so much, Boyan. You provide a ton of value to our listeners. How can they learn more about you? Is there any way they can provide value to you?
Well, at this point, I'm looking for more people to work with on the general contracting side.
Okay.
More investors, more people I can, kind of help them, start their real estate journey, not only through the construction, also help them evaluate deals, create those relationships. This is something, if I can get it connected to more of your listeners, that's going to be great.
All right, awesome. We'll link to all that in the show notes. We'll link to George Wyatt as well. We got a ton of value for you guys here. All right, we end with the Chicago Fact. Who are we playing for, Mark?
All right, we're playing for Daniel Volcher. And Boyan, if you or me get this question right, Daniel will get a $50 gift card brought to you by today's sponsor, Renovo Financial, the Workman team.
Man, that's a huge burden.
All right, let's do this.
Let's see.
So we were talking about all the great museums we have here, and I haven't done a museum question in a while. So we're gonna go to the Adler Planetarium. So I'm gonna list you 4 things. 3 of them are true. You got to tell me which one of these is false about the Adler Planetarium. All right. Number 1, it has actual moon rock from the Apollo 11 mission. B, it's my oldest daughter's favorite Chicago museum. I'll tell you right now, that one's true. C, the largest main dome theater has a diameter of roughly 350 feet. And D, it's the oldest public planetarium in the Western Hemisphere. Which one of these is a false statement?
You said one B, C, D. That was hilarious.
It's hard.
I'll go with D.
You going with D?
Yeah.
All right. So he's saying that it's not the oldest planetarium in the Western
I would have
Hemisphere.
said that. We'll go with the moon rock.
All right. No, guys, it's the dome.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh my
come on. It is the oldest public planetarium in the Western Hemisphere. It does have the moon rock. It is my daughter's favorite of them.
Man, you gave us one and we still messed that up.
Man, it's the largest dome theater. It has a diameter. I said 350 feet. It's only 70 feet. 350 feet is huge.
Oh, I guess, yeah.
A diameter?
That's a football field.
Yeah.
That's football.
I tried to make it I made it 4x the size just to give you a shot. 5x the size.
I didn't even listen to the actual dimensions. That was probably bad listening.
Sorry.
All right, man.
Workman gets to keep $50 in his pocket, though.
All right, Daniel, I cannot get you the $50 gift card brought to you by Renovo Financial, the Workman team, but we can put your name back in the hat. Your name was originally in the hat because you left us a review, and we appreciate that. And Boyan, thank you very much for coming on. Tom, thank you. Listeners, if this episode added value or entertained you in any way, please share this with a friend or on social media. So if you take this, put that little up arrow, throw it to Facebook or Instagram. We greatly appreciate it. So Boyan, thanks for coming on. Tom, thank you. Listeners, we'll see you next week.